What is up, everybody? Welcome to Half Ass Pod. It's your boy Corn. Look, tonight we have a movie, an unlikely horror movie that we were going to be talking about. That came out in 2019, directed by Ari Aster, starring Florence Pugh and a couple other people. We had a discount Seth Rogen slash Chris Pratt. Uh, you also had Will Poulter, who we just talked about last week as well. So you got some notable people in this movie. But we're going to be talking about Midsommar, unless it's pronounced Midsommar. I've heard some people call it Midsommar. But we are going to be talking
Yeah,
about
in Swedish
Midsommar of
it's
2019. Oh, that's how they
Midsommar.
pronounce it in Sweden, right?
Yeah, in Sweden. Yeah, yeah.
So, so what we're going to do, we're going to introduce you guys, obviously, with our panel here on the Hat Film panel. We have, first off, we have your trench captain, Smith. Smith, say what's up to the people, man.
What's up, people? Good to be here.
And next we have the author, the creator, the end all be all of not only Walter Paisley Cafe, but Spadal, Mark Flatt. Mark, say what's up to the people, man.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're having a good time. That's what we're here for, right? Just talking about movies. Get your mind off the bullshit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you thought you were going to be able to get your mind off the bullshit tonight, well, you're halfway right. You're half right because there's a lot
I
of
think that's what
bullshit
this
these
movie's about.
characters. Yep, there's a lot of bullshit that these characters are dealing with in Midsummer. But Smith, what is the synopsis for this movie?
All right, give me a second here because I got to look at the looking at the storyline. I'm going to paraphrase that because it's just laid out better here. So we have our main characters, Danny and Christian, and they're a young couple. Supposedly, there was relationship problems that they had, and a tragedy brings them back together. And then they end up going on this trip to Sweden to attend this midsummer, or however you say it in Sweden, festival. And it's like this small little village, and of course it is above the Arctic Circle, so it's daylight almost 24/7.
It's very
And
weird.
yeah, and it starts off where there's a couple other friends with them. It starts off where I think right before they get to the village, they decide to take shrooms. So you get to
Yep.
be there for that, and I think the whole purpose of that was just to put you at ease, like, oh, they're just having
Get
fun,
them
because
acclimated. Yeah.
I didn't know this was a horror movie the first time I watched it. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, I thought it was like, oh, it's some cool little trip. And they end up in this village, and they're attending all these festivities with the locals. As you can see in the background, looks, I mean, that is from the movie. So yeah, they look like that. They all wear similar garb. All their buildings are made out of wood. And as the as time progresses, the people in the village kind of go crazy. So they're doing stuff, and we'll get into it obviously, but it turns into a horror movie basically. They're doing crazy stuff like, and they've got this empathic thing going on as well. They didn't really explain that in the movie, but like when one person feels something like a certain emotion that's strong, they all feel it and emulate it as well. So like if someone's crying, they all start crying. It's really fucking weird. But yeah, that's it, and we'll get into the rest of the movie.
As much as I love this movie, watching it a second time, this movie was fucking weird, man. I mean, it's so subtle in the way it's balls to the wall, like just straight up, just out of a fucking like fictional book. You know what I mean? Like I don't know who actually. I don't know if Ari Aster wrote the story, but the way it was put into a movie was fucking outrageous. I mean, we start at the beginning of this movie, right? We start at the beginning where it's where Danny, right, is a character's name. So she's at the beginning, and she's sitting at the edge of her bed, and she's talking to her sister, or I believe she was talking to somebody, and she's saying that her sister wasn't responding to her emails. And then later we see the emails, but we see them from the sister's perspective, and she is already dead. That part I didn't really understand. Like I know she kind of, she hooked it herself, so I guess she kind of, I don't know what the fuck she did, but
Yeah,
she's dead. The parents were dead. I don't even know how the parents died, but they were laying in bed. They showed that little
They
scene.
they did it weird, and it wasn't even a big point to make in it. Like it just happened like
Yeah,
that. Like, okay, yeah. By the way, their family died.
yeah.
well, I had to look it up to be sure because I didn't know if they were all the victims of some sort of murder or what. I mean, it was
Hmm.
a murder suicide. Her
Yeah.
sister carbon monoxide poisoned everyone in the house, which included her.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they open the scene with the emergency workers and fire department entering the home, and all this bustling going on about. And they show the parents lying in their bed dead. It's night, and then they follow this hose to her sister lying on the floor, leaned up against something with a mask on, and it was carbon monoxide poisoning. So I would assume that the other line of the hoses or whatever that was doing that were connected to a running car of some sort. So yeah, and then her on the phone. That was just her leaving messages because Danny couldn't get a hold of her sister, and then tried to leave it. I thought that was interesting. It was kind of a stretch. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
I mean, it could apply parents maybe of boomer age, but they had an analog, answering machine, like a landline answering machine, like from the 90s. But of course, I've gone to older people's houses where they've had like rotary phones on the wall and shit, and just it's all so quaint. Like, oh wow, this is technology from 30 years ago.
I'm
So it's
dead.
not that much of a stretch, but it did seem a little kind of like, oh yeah, wow, kind of a weak movie trope to sort of communicate something. But either way, I mean, I can't fault the entire movie for it, but it was just a little, eh. you know,
I feel like they should. I feel like they actually could have done without showing the family, like without actually like showing like the family's death, and just having her on the phone, like having that moment of her just being on the phone and saying like,
well, I think that was for the
because that's what she was
audience.
doing like the first 15 minutes of the movie.
I mean, because Danny is, she gets really depressed. She has a very deep reaction, and the film doesn't do much to give us an emotional connection to her, immediately, or not even really before her the tragedy, other than that anybody can relate to the idea of being really shocked and traumatized by such an incident. So I think maybe showing the family, dead and everything, was
Hmm.
more to give some impact to all of that, because I think so much of it, I mean, because I clearly think that the central focus was Danny and her tragedy and the trauma resulting from that, and then the expression of that trauma involved in a very alien situation, which was this trip to Sweden that she went on. But I mean, clearly it was all this setup because I mean, even after the tragedy, her life had already sucked. Anyways, oh yeah, it was another thing that we should probably be clear is that Danny is a psychology student, and her boyfriend, a Christian, which I think is kind of a, I don't know. I don't know if that's like a real ham-fisted, sort of metaphorical name for him,
I
or
think it was. Yeah,
yeah. It just it,
definitely.
it it impressed upon me like a, oh really, Christian? Okay, so for those of you in the audience that don't understand allegory, this guy's name is Christian. Although I'm sure if you're really lost on that sort of thing, you probably don't get that either. So, but but either way, yeah, I think it bears some mention. So yeah, but oh, and
I
then
thought about that when they first like the second time, like when I watched it this time around. I thought about that when they said his name, and I was like, "Oh, there's no way it could be that obvious." You know what I mean? So I didn't think anything of it until then, and then now you say it, and now I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it is a possibility that it probably did name him, for that reason.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of funny too that it's Swedish. There's back around the year 1099 is about the same time that uh, Sweden was pretty much overtaken by the Christians in Europe. And like this, this symbol, the Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor was something that they would wear in defiance of Christianity. It was in defiance of the Christian cross at the time. Well, they lost, but either way, that's what. So that clash with the Christians, and there are still people in the Scandinavia that I mean they still remember that they wear such things like that. It's kind of a cultural reflection there. This clash between Christianity, which regardless of its origins, I mean it became this sort of dominating thing with this very um, sort of vague and abstract way of viewing the world. There's one God that's invisible. There's no, that you can't see, can't feel. It's only special people can speak with this whereas the pagan type religions that are being depicted or being sort of fictionalized here were more in touch and in harmony with the world around them.
Did you guys realize at the beginning of this movie? Because I actually had to rewind it back a little bit because I do remember, obviously when I saw it, the first time when this movie came out with the whole bear at the end, and with Christian and him being inside the bear or wearing the bear or whatever. The part that I had to highlight was when she's laying down at the beginning of this movie, and I believe this is right after the death of her parents, after her realizing that she, finding out her parents were dead, right? And she's laying down. There's a painting on the wall of the little girl with the bear. Did you guys ever realize that?
No, I didn't notice.
Dude,
You
that was crazy.
You got the picture pulled up?
No, man, I wish I had the fucking picture. Damn, I wish I would have took a screenshot because I for some reason I thought you guys would have caught that as well. But yeah, I had to ride back and look at that. I was like, wait a minute, it's a little girl. She's touching I think she's touching the bear on like the nose or something like that. But I thought that was some pretty cool symbolism, and if that was symbolism, maybe that was just random. I don't know, but I doubt it.
Well, I do know the bear is very important in Nordic culture, so that I know Ari Aster did a lot of research. I mean, this is fictionalized. There's certain parts of it that were
most definitely
directly taken, but they're based on a lot of a lot of
real
actual traditions and things like that from ancient Sweden, things in Scandinavia. So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's certainly an auteur, although this is my first time seeing any of his films, but just doing a little research, that's his reputation. And after seeing this film, yeah, it's definitely an auteur's film.
And after like the first like 10 or 15 minutes of this movie, this movie doesn't really start picking up until, maybe like 30, 45 minutes later, until they get to that ceremony, right? And then with the old people jump off the cliff or whatever. And that's when it just starts running. It just starts getting like just bonkers and outrageous. But I loved every second of this movie, obviously. That's why when you suggested this movie, like I did not hesitate at all. I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna talk about this fucking movie. There's so many. All right, so we start out with the trauma, right? We start out with her dealing with her parents, and then they finally get to fucking to Sweden, right? But here's the thing: before they even go, you can clearly tell that she's not wanted anywhere. Like nobody wants anything to do with her. To me, I do find it kind of weird for a chick that just found out her family, pretty much died. After all this time that nobody's really kind of, confided in her. No one's kind of just helped her out or like, kind words, something like everybody's just looking at her like she's fucking weird, right? Everybody's like, oh, here goes the weird person in the room. And it's just like, dude, she's dealing with fucking, you know what I mean? She's dealing with some real shit right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
so
at the very least, it'd be a guy like listening to her to get the dead parents' rebound sex or something.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Like, oh, you're clearly in distress. You want to hang out?
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah. There's got to be some, knight in shining armor, right? Quote unquote. But not even that. And I mean, you kind of think that maybe Pele is kind of like that guy, but then you find out that he has ulterior motives as well. Um, I do have a question for you guys. Do you guys really think that that Pele actually cared about her, or was he just using her?
I uh, I mean, after having watched it completely, I would say no, he wasn't just trying to bone her. I think they were trying to project that, or
Mm-hmm.
telegraph that. Because I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of this sort of bro culture going on in the whole thing with among the grad students.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, Mark is probably the extreme end of that. And this, where he's got his friends and then the bar drinking, and they're talking about, hey, you've been wanting to get rid of this chick for over a year, and she won't have sex with you, and things like this. And hey, at least when you get to Sweden, you'll get some sex, whatever, blah blah blah, or go for this
Yeah.
other woman or whatever. She'll probably at least have sex with her, things like that. That sort of thing. And then here's Pele, a fellow. I think he was another student among them or something. He was connected somehow. He was definitely an
I think it's
international of
probably
some
an
sort.
international, yeah, international student. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's what we were supposed to believe. But me personally, I think by the end of the film, given the culture that he was from and the types of things that he ends up telling Danny about family and everything, about how he lost his parents, and although it hurt him, he was being supported by this family, which was the entire Horga village that he was living in, this whole community, and which I think is ultimately what a lot of the movie is about, at least when you've got the old man jumps off the cliff, he cries out in pain, all the observers from the village start to cry out in pain as well, so they're making a shared experience out of it. The sex scene where they get Christian all drugged up and get him to uh, you know bone the village girl that chose him to be his mate, and they're all moaning with her as he's as he's boning her. Mind you, he's there's not a lot of consent here if you want to put it in terms of
Yeah,
21st century.
we'll get to that part. We'll get to that part though.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
get to that
yeah.
part.
So, but yeah, things like that. This communal aspect. So with Pella, I don't think his intentions were, and that's such a funny way to put it. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation about, like, oh, if you want to have sex with someone, like, that's devious. I mean, it can be for sure, but and I think Astor was playing on that with people with Pella, because I mean, of course, we could talk a lot about, are these people bad, are they good, whatever, what's going on with all that. But I think ultimately, no. I think he was very. I think it was a lot of what he was what he appeared to be.
Smith, what about you?
We're still on the same question, right?
Yeah,
If he actually
if he actually
loved her,
cared about
liked
her,
her,
yeah,
cared.
I'm just gonna use care. If he actually if
Yeah,
he
that's
actually
that's.
cared.
I would say definitely, yeah, and it goes with what Mark said. Essentially, is he was, when you're talking to bros, you say bro things, and I think that's what it comes down to. I don't know if Astor had much intention to make us feel one way or the other. I think that's a bigger question. It's hard to say because this really, like, 'cause like you're saying, the first 45 minutes of the movie, I don't know how much it really matters once you get to that part. I mean, I
True.
understand you gotta invest in the characters and get attached to them or whatever, but um, yeah, I don't know what he was trying. Don't know what he was trying to show us with that.
I think
Facts.
it was,
Facts.
and I'm going to say it again, kind of a red herring, kind of a
Yeah,
little thing to take off the trail.
a little bit, and then the whole, yeah, exactly, the whole first 45 minutes was just to, like, all right, so you see the family die, and then it's like, okay, time to get comfortable and just watch these guys have a good time in Sweden, or an okay time until it happens.
Yep. And then we get up ahead to the dance scene, right? And the dance scene to me is something that was it, this was weird. This was very weird. Um, because it's basically the May Queen is crowned after the last person standing in this dancing, right? In this dance thing they're doing. Did
And
this
they took
Yeah, the
brooms
maypole
as well,
dance.
right?
yeah. And they took that before that. Then but they also took that drink too though, right? Weren't they didn't they take that weird drink before
Yeah. You know what that was?
no. I know it's like a hallucinogenic, right?
It might have just been shroom tea.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out if it was plants or it was some kind of insects. At first, I was like, "Is that some sort of
Yeah,
tea or something they're putting in
because you look at it, yeah, because
there?"
it was like a yellowish. I mean, I didn't think it was piss or anything, but I did think it was like some weird like I don't know. It could have been
Yeah.
because
Well, when
nothing
they
showed us that
drop
it
the
was a
substance in the
cannibalism.
water,
Yeah, it's like because when you look in the cup that she gives it to him, there's like something in it, but you don't know what it is, and they never go back to explain it either. So like this entire time, we're still sitting
well,
here
I
like,
think it was
what the
suggested that
fuck
it was
was?
menstrual blood. You remember early on when they panned across the tapestry with the sort of like graphic story of the woman dreaming about a man and then shaving her pubes and putting it in his food and her menstrual blood in his drink. That was depicted in a it was a very brief scene, but they panned across this long tapestry of about 4 or 5 panels.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to go back and look at that because I didn't catch that one. But if so, that's if it's making them do all that, if it's making them, obviously go through all
Yeah.
those, like it's weird, dude. It like to me, it is this movie is just like everything that happened after the dance. It was just like, what the fuck? Like, who thinks of this shit? You know what I mean? Like all right, so we go after we hit the dance part, she's crowned as the May Queen. And by the way, does anybody know, was that before or after they had that ceremony where their old people died, where they killed themselves? That was
The
after
dance
the dance,
was
right?
before, yeah.
Okay. So after their dance we get to that part, right? And for some reason, what was Will Poulter's character, the douchebag bro? um
Christian or wait,
no,
I can't remember which was Mark,
yeah, I
the
think
one who peed on the
Mark was the
tree.
yeah.
Mark was the one who peed
That
on the
was Mark,
tree.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, we'll get to that too. But he was asleep during the ceremony, so he somehow missed the ceremony. But it was the black dude, the LeVar Burton, the Great Value version of LeVar Burton. You had Christian, who was
Uh,
the Great Value version of Chris Pratt. So you had these
well,
guys. You had Danny, and then you had Pele, and then for some reason I forgot the other two characters' name. One was what, Simon or something like that, and then
Yeah.
oh,
it was the girl, right?
Connie and Simon. They were. I
Connie.
think they,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so they started freaking out during the ceremony when they started seeing the old man and the woman walk up the mountain or the hill, whatever you want to call it, and they're standing at the edge. Now, first is the woman. She jumps. Well, she doesn't jump. She pretty much, she does this little ritualistic whatever the fuck they do, and then she fucking just falls off the cliff. She just literally just walks off the cliff, falls and hits a rock face first. And they don't hold back in this movie either. Like I enjoy the fact that they showed all the blood and guts and everything in this movie because it needed we needed it, just made it more horrifying, right? So she falls and hits the rock. I love the special effects that they did. In terms of like her head bouncing off, and then as soon as it bounces off, you already see the damage on the face. I love the detail that they
Mhm.
put in that. And then you
Her
see
face
the
exploded.
yes, literally. And then you see the man do his little ritualistic bullshit. Then he walks off the cliff and he falls and he misses the rock, but he hits the ground, falls on his back. They again, they didn't hold back. You see the damage that happened to his leg and his ankles. That shit's all mutilated. You see what happened to his head, to his face, and he's still alive. and he's gasping for air. He's breathing, and then they take a what was this? This is that mallet, I believe they
Yeah,
took
big.
a big
Yeah,
ass
like
fucking mallet, and
like a Warhammer.
yeah, I didn't think those things were even it was crazy. But they took the mallet and they ended up smashing his face like 2 or 3 times. At that point, Christian, he's fucking puking. You got Simon and Connie, they are freaking the fuck out. They're pretty much the representation of literally your average person, right? That's literally what your average person would react. Because the other people, they seem like whether between, and this is where I thought was kind of weird because you had Christian, which all he pretty much did was like he puked, he freaked out a little bit, but then he kind of gathered himself a little bit after that. Like he kind of just dug it deep down and just never talked about it again. You had what's the black dude's name? I keep want to call him LeVar Burton. Uh,
Well, no, the actor is William Jackson Harper. He was one of the main characters on a really good sitcom called The Good Place. Played a philosophy
I'm
professor named Cheaty. So he was
I meant
the
that.
smartest guy in the show. Josh? Oh,
Is that his name? The black dude in the movie. What's his name?
yeah, yeah,
That's it was
yeah,
Josh.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Josh,
so
the grad student, the anthropology student.
okay, because the entire time I was watching the movie, I kept calling him Great Value LeVar Burton. That's who he looks like. But
Oh, man.
um, in this movie, this dude is very weird too because he doesn't. Again, this dude doesn't freak out. Like you see him kind of cover his mouth a little bit and kind of look away a little bit, but again, they're not acting normal. You know what I mean? For a normal person to see some fucked up shit like that, they're not saying anything. And then obviously we already know that Danny, she's already doing her own trauma shit, so obviously she's not going to be, completely like what the fuck, because she's like, okay, like these people are. I'm kind of feeling a little bit at home, a little bit, a little bit.
Well,
So
Josh was there for to do anthropology work, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
to
mean
write
that's
the
yeah.
yeah.
That's why
But
he
they
didn't
both
react
were going
as
to do
bad.
that thesis, right? Which is another thing. I want to go back to what you guys were saying about the 45 minutes, right? There's a 45-minute part of this movie in the first half of this movie that we deem to be completely irrelevant, right? I
Well,
thought the
not
whole
irrelevant, but
well, not irrelevant, but you know what I mean, like
yeah, yeah.
kind of like where it's like, all right, we didn't need 45 minutes, you know what I mean? But the whole thesis part, like, am I missing something there? Like, why was this even? Why do we spend so much time on them bickering about writing a fucking thesis?
Well, I mean, I think because I mean, what I think it really set up was that from the get go, Josh was interested in going on the trip uh, to actually write his thesis about the Horga people. And then Christian decides, oh, I'm going to do that, my thesis on that as well. When he's there, he was kind of undecided beforehand. So then there
Mm-hmm.
became this big conflict between Josh and him, and then the elders. Yeah, he had to get the permission of the elders through
Yeah,
Pella,
yeah.
and
I mean, I
Pella
get that.
told
Yeah.
him, yeah, yeah, yeah. So well, I just think that sort of competitiveness between the two of them was also sort of a part of sort of the underlying intentions of the movie, the commentary about the clash of cultures, where as anthropologists, they're there thinking they're like these outside observers above it. They're just something for them to study. Like they have some sort of distance from them, and I think that really plays out in that as well. And then, of course, Josh's ambition gets the better of him, and he ends up being the first guy of the because Connie and what's his name, Simon, they were, I mean, they were pretty much like the first people that got, they came up missing or whatever, but they weren't part of the central group. So guess what? The first guy that gets killed in the central group is the black guy. So yeah, did I freeze up?
No, you're good. I think corn is frozen.
Oh no! Oh no! Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. But I mean, to my whole point is just that, um, he eventually He tried to ask permission to take pictures of the holy book that one of the elders was reading from for a ceremony, and then he he snuck in there in the building that he was told it was prohibited from him and the outsiders. He snuck in that building and started taking pictures, and then the whatever the fuck they did to Mark, like hit him over the head with that a mallet, and then of course we found out later killed him. So I think a lot of that whole grad school aspect dimension. I also think it kind of subverts horror movies because a lot of times in horror movies there's maybe just one really smart person. I'm not saying that all these people are necessarily smart, but they're people, the college people, and so I think there's a little bit of play going on there as well with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
So in terms of,
Got it.
oh, go ahead, Smith.
It's all you. Oh, did he freeze again?
Oh, I think he did.
Wouldn't you know it? He's the one with bad with bad internet this time.
I'm sorry.
Are you back? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, you guys got me. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move over to the next part because this next part is very vital to the story. And at the start of this scene, we have Connie packing her bags. She's walking around with her bags, right? And she's saying that her and old dude are gonna leave. Her and Simon are leaving. Well, guess what, guys? We don't see Simon anymore. You know what old dude comes up and says? He says, Simon already left. And then that's where all the confusion starts, where she's like, oh, he never would do that, blah, blah, whatever. Then you've got Danny, she overhears it, and then, obviously it gets back over to Christian, and they have their whole conversation. And that's where all that shit blows up, right? But let me ask you guys something, because this isn't the first time that this happens, that we don't see a death. I mean, let's think about it. There's, 2-3 more people that die in this movie that we don't see their deaths. And so now I want to fair this question to you guys of, do you guys feel like we need, not necessarily need, but would you guys have rather have seen their deaths, seen the deaths of the friends? Because if you think about it, we didn't see anybody's death after this until, I mean, as intense this movie was, we didn't see anybody else's death until Christian, pretty much.
Are you talking about because like the bodies were discovered rather than shown
killings? What they did with it? Yes.
Well, the one of the interesting things was I forgot, was it Christian who discovered Simon's body? He was hung up to the roof of
it was Christian. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Christian discovered it.
Now I only know this because I saw the show Vikings, but there was a
you got blood eagled.
Yeah, the blood eagle. Yeah. He got blood eagled. And I wasn't sure when I first saw it, but I confirmed it, and I guess he was actually still alive, all splayed up there hanging on me, because I guess the lungs were moving, because I was like, is he still alive? Because of what I saw in Vikings about how they did the blood eagle thing where they split your back open and pull up your ribs and expose your organs and all of that shit. So, and I forgot what supposedly happened to Connie. And of course, Josh had his foot sticking up out of the ground in some sort of flower bed. So I don't know. That was all.
No story for you.
Yeah.
But Smith, what about you?
You're asking, like, was it a good thing or a bad thing that we didn't? Basically, that we didn't see the deaths.
Yeah, like, would you guys have rather?
No, definitely not, because like it's like boiling a frog. It doesn't even know it's boiling at this point. Before you see their bodies, I mean, at least I was on the fence. Like, okay, these people are overreacting. They got some weird customs. Those old people were gonna die anyways. And then you actually find the bodies, and it's like, oh shit. So just gets you more it just gives you something to think about up until that point. You're like, well, did they kill him? Did he actually leave? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I maybe it's just because I watch so many damn slashers that I just have like this automatic like notion of like we didn't see him die. That means but I kind of had to dismiss that in this movie because this is again horror is more of it's more than one subgenre, right? It's more than just a slasher. It's more than just psychological. You have movies like this where it's like you don't necessarily have to see how the sausage is made. You just got to see the sausage is made. You just got to see the deed is done. And this movie perfected it. This movie really perfected it. Now I want to get more into the psychological things with you guys just for a second. Just for a second. With someone because we get to maybe about 30 minutes left in the movie, right? And we get to the point where her and Christian they're continuing to butt heads. He's already forgotten her birthday. He's already been a piece of shit to her throughout the entire movie, pretty much. Um, and then you get to the point where now we get to the sex scene. Now, you have her, you have Danny, who's the May Queen, right? So now she's dealing with, they're all parading her, whatever. But now and now he's getting pretty much after he finds Simon's body, right? And then I don't know what kind of dust they did, what kind of dust they fucking blew into his face, whatever. And then and now they take him into this what chapel or whatever thing. And then so I have a question. What did they do with his body, by the way? Did they like just like stick him with shots to where he couldn't move or speak or they didn't explain that either, right?
Christians, or
Yeah.
the bodies that were they looked like they were stuffed with straw, like they were skinned.
No,
They
no,
were
I meant
just their
Christian with
skin.
Christian's body. With
Oh,
Christian's.
oh, yeah, he was stuck in a bear.
Because remember they when I'm talking about when they put him in the wheelchair though,
Oh,
after he found Simon's body when they blew the dust in his face. And because they don't really explain like what they did, like how they paralyzed his entire body.
I'm assuming chemical.
Unless I missed
I'm
something.
sure it was kind of phlebotomy, where like okay, they just blow crazy knockout dust into his face and it
Well,
paralyzes him.
it just paralyzed him because you still hear him scream.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Don't they burn him alive, right? I thought.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the end. I'm talking about the part
Oh,
where, all right.
for right
So
now.
you know the
Yeah, yeah.
part where the May Queen, where she's sitting up on the podium or whatever, and she's all doused in flowers and shit, and then he's in that chair, right, in the front of the stage, paralyzed as shit. You guys remember that part? So like, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was my question was pretty much like how they paralyzed him, but I guess that none of us could really figure that out. I guess because they kind of just left that out.
They kind of took that from South America, the whole like dust in your face, now you're a zombie kind of thing. I don't think there's anything like that in Europe.
Okay, so it wasn't more of it's okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
wasn't like
just a plot device there, no cultural relevance.
Well, yeah. I mean, because there's a lot of things there where they took license, and that was the thing. I mean, it's, it's a full court. Think of, I don't know. Maybe I'm already getting to one of your questions, but did you guys think of Cannibal Holocaust when you watched this?
Yeah, it's
A
the
little bit.
European cannibal holocaust.
a little bit,
Because
but
that could be
I didn't.
a folk horror as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because the one thing that really made me think about Cannibal Holocaust was, at least at first, was when they remember when they grabbed Danny to go into that bakery inside that house or that little cabin thing, and they were making those little what do they call them, meat muffins or whatever the fuck they were called. What do they call them? Something like that, and or meat cupcakes or something like that, meat cakes or whatever the fuck. It looked weird, and it sounded even worse. Yeah, that was my first thought was Cannibal Holocaust. I was like, oh shit, they get to the old Cannibal Holocaust territory most definitely with that one. But yeah, look, say what you want about Danny, say what you want about her relationship with Christian. These two, we knew from the jump they were not supposed to be together, bro. We knew from this dude is going ham on this chick, and you got all these naked ass old ladies, and we know they kind of pull a little bit of this from the maybe not specifically Salem witch trials, but there's got to be some kind of witch stuff thrown in there, at least in this scene, in terms of the whole the sex and it's like because we talked about because we know what they talked about earlier, what they do with in terms of the cycle of life or the circle of life, right? Which is they said like what from like obviously from the time you're born to 18, and then from 18 to 36, and then from 36 then to 72 or whatever. Then once you're 72, that's when they kill you, whatever. Um, but so we get to the sex scene. I want to ask you guys because I mean, Mark, you already mentioned it earlier about the sex scene. There's some ritualistic stuff in this in this scene alone, which we don't really have to get to unless you guys want to get into that. Um, but I just want to ask you guys the significance. Like, what do you think the significance was, and why Ari Aster, the director, deemed it so important to put this sex scene into this movie? And Smith, I'll start with you.
Why they chose to put this in the movie?
Or at least from your perspective, why do you think they? Why do you think?
Well, I think the whole purpose of this festival and why they did, well, maybe not the purpose of the festival, but my theory is why they did what they did to these people is because they're an isolated community and possibly inbreeding was a concern, and they knew that. So they wanted to basically take their DNA and then get rid of them. So the sex scene, you'd have to happen to see that, and it's like because Danny lives at the end, right? She's still around.
Yeah.
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 So now they have another breeding female, and they've already got a kid with an outside male. So that's two new genetic lines they could start, which I think that's what he was getting at here. I'm not sure.
Well, they out and out say that in a
And
couple of
you
scenes.
also see that.
Do they? Shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also see that fucked up kid too, the one with like the big ass fucking lips and like the messed
yeah.
up face. Like
Yeah,
my first thought was like,
because
oh, that's an inbred baby. Like that's an inbred kid.
well, yeah, I mean, was it one of the elders was telling, was it Josh or Christian? Either way, that there was one person that held some sort of important position in the village that was always the product of inbreeding, and then of course we got to see that person who was
Yep.
Oh
severely
yeah,
mutated.
like the Oracle
Yep.
or whatever.
Yes, yes, which would track with a lot of ancient cultures and how certain people were considered special, whether they were physically or mentally different in some way. I mean, maybe if, at a further stress, the Oracle at Delphi in Greece, really just got stoned off of
Right.
gases in the
Killing
temple and
beings.
things like that. Yeah.
I think it's still that way in Israel and a lot of parts in the Middle East. For oh, there's no kosher way to say it, but retarded people, that's they still view them that way in that light in a lot of places.
Which is crazy, man. It's crazy. It's a crazy world
Yeah,
out there,
I
man.
mean,
Like,
and that's where we get. I've heard it used
I'm sorry, Mark.
derogatorily, but I think.
Oh, it's frozen again.
Oh, it's just as to say, like, there's that phrase. I've heard it used derogatorily, but I've heard it used in reference to people that were, mentally disabled or had, developmental disabilities that, that they're touched. But I mean, I think that comes from that sort of old folk belief that they're touched by a god or the gods or God or whatever in some way that because they have such a different way of seeing the world that they're tuned into something that the rest of the regular people just don't seem to comprehend.
And
You
Mark, I
know,
want to throw this question over to you about the sex scene because when it comes to Christian, right? and we know Christian to be this. I mean, if we could just sum this up real quick when it comes to Christian, is that this guy is not only an asshole, he's self-centered, he's a terrible friend, he's a terrible boyfriend. They pretty much don't give us any kind of way to redeem this guy at all in this movie. So now we get to the point where this guy has a sex scene with this random chick. Um, you know, at this point in the movie, do you want to see Christian live?
I didn't. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he pretty was. I mean, yeah. I mean, the way I took him in was, yeah, he was pretty irredeemable. I mean, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, no, oh wow, this guy just creeps me out. Yeah, no way.
And
You know,
very
but I
very
think
rarely
he
do we get
was
that too.
right, and but I think it goes back to what I said about being ham-fisted about his name being Christian. I think he was sort of like the very point of conflict. You know, the broad conflict of the movie. You know, which is where we get this, you know, somewhat thinly veiled allegory about the difference between, you know, what we would normally call Western or modern culture versus, you know, which is based on individualism and things like this, where it's coming into conflict with a communal. I mean, I think the reason why we had a group full of naked people is because it's such taboo on our society. We're supposed to be ashamed of our bodies, you know, and things like this. And sex is something that we're not supposed to talk about. It's naughty, you know, things like this. You know, I mean, our whole, you know, society, the greatest influence comes from the Abrahamic religions, which, you know, are all about controlling the sex. You know, it's all about, you know, you know, you only have to be married. You can't, you know, you can't be the same sex. Gender is only one certain way, and that's it. So I think that played on taboos. I mean, you had an older woman pushing on Christian's ass, you know, sort of cooperating, sort of joining the whole thing physically, you know, you know, and that really plays hell on our taboos, which is the job of a horror movie, especially to this psychological effect, you know, where you know, we're supposed to be unsettled, we're supposed to be disturbed.
Well, it does for American viewers,
I gotta say though,
but in
Right? Yeah.
Sweden, it's common practice for whole families to sunbathe naked together in summertime, and then obviously you have all the nude beaches in Europe. So it's kind of like if that were the case, then the target audience for this would be North Americans, and it probably was.
Yeah, I think is Ari Aster, is he American or um yeah, but
There's
even then, I
no
mean, think
no way to
see how
guess
this
with a name like that.
yeah, but I mean, you know, yeah, he's an American. So
I don't know.
um
He is.
but yeah, and we have those differences even between modern Sweden and modern America, where, you know, America, like as far as being a wealthy country, you know, an industrialized wealthy country, is a lot different than the rest of the industrialized world, you know, in a lot of ways, culturally too. You know, the same type of taboos and things like that. Like, yeah, like people in Scandinavia do not have the hang-ups we have here in this country, you know. And so you can look at modern scene, and you just said, oh yeah, everybody sunbathes in nude together. I mean, I could just imagine being like, oh my god, I would never do that. Can you imagine? You know, I mean, what? That's so gross. I mean, I'm gonna have to look at some guy's hairy ass, you know.
I'm dead. uh, jeez, Mark. Sometimes, man, you make me lose my train of thought, man.
Yeah, what were we talking about? Naked people?
So, but
Sexy.
I do got to say though, you know, as the guy that I am, I'm not gonna lie, it would be kind of nice to, you know, have sex with a chick and then hear other women in the background screaming, "Hey, man, hey!" I gotta say, for somebody that dies in the next 20 minutes, uh, Christian had one hell of a time, one hell of a last slay. You know, R.I.P. Christian. He went out like a champ. He went out like a champ a little bit. Uh, but we do have to go with the next scene though. Well, actually, before we do, I gotta get these comments out of the way. Jaron, Jaron says, "What's up?" He actually came through. This is the second week in a row you didn't come through in the last 5 minutes. So what's up? What's up? Thank you for coming through and supporting the channel. Grandmaster Altus Wizard says this movie is neat because it's not nighttime once during the entire movie, and I want to capitalize on that as well, uh, because I think that that brings a different element to this side of horror, which is, if you think about it, well, I guess not. You only have to think about it. There's not one night scene in this entire movie, and maybe at the beginning of the movie, like the very beginning of this movie, where it's kind of dark a little bit. But after that, once they hit Sweden, it's like we said, it's midsummer, so it's daytime the entire movie, and they stick with that. And look, horror can happen. Obviously, as we can see, you can make a great horror movie and still have it be done entirely um, with daytime. So I really fuck with it. What about you guys?
Yeah, you don't really need the whole dark aspects to create horror. That's true.
Yeah,
Mark?
it definitely gave. Oh, it definitely gave a unique flavor to the film. You know, where, yeah, I mean, look at the background that we have here. I mean, look at how beautiful and colorful it is, and that's
Mhm.
what the entire time in Sweden is like, except when they're inside the cabin, and there in the cabin everyone sleeps together in the same building. You know, and Mark, you know, he speaks up. You know, he's the biggest jackass in the film, right? He's like, oh wow, what if you got to jerk off? What are you going to do about that? Boy, I don't know, man. You know, that type of thing. You know, because that's what a lot of us would say. You know, like, oh man, what do you mean?
Yeah,
What am I going to
absolutely.
do when I have to jerk off in here? Like, or what about when people screw?
Yo,
You're just gonna
Whoa.
have to pitch a tent, I guess.
imagine,
Yeah.
Run to the outhouse. I don't know.
imagine that was my first question when I went to basic training. And I was like, and I realized I'm in this big ass room for like, probably like 50 other dudes, and I was like, how the fuck am I gonna whack off? Like that was my first thought. I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. But yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Like in terms of horror, like we understand that it can be other elements other than dark outside, because even me, somebody who tries to write short stories, um but my first thought whenever I think of horror is like it's a dark, rainy, cold night, it's something like that, you know what I mean? And it's like it doesn't have to be that. So seeing a movie like this, and this movie still hitting it on almost every cylinder, or every side of the cylinder, like I fuck with that. I fuck with that. Grandmaster Altus Withers says there's subliminal messages all throughout the movie to remind you of the sister's death. Absolutely, and you know what I think else. I think that those screams and those dry cries that Danny has throughout the movie, I think is still like it's still connected to that sister's death. It's still connected to like she couldn't do anything to help her sister, to save her sister. And what do you guys think?
Like it's parallel to how she was helpless, or she was largely ineffective, or had no way in helping her friends, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, like, well,
Because this
not even
entire
just her
thing,
friend,
she's
not even just her.
distracted. Her head's in the
Yeah,
clouds. So even if they probably could have killed him right behind her back, she wouldn't have done anything likely.
I'm talking more about her sister, like that the fact that she couldn't do anything to save her sister, because her friends aren't really her friends anyways. Like
No, that's true. That's
she
true.
she wouldn't really give a shit about them anyways. I mean, let's just be real. But I mean,
I mean,
she kind of took a liking to maybe like Simon and Connie a little bit. Um, but in terms of Josh and Mark and hell, maybe not even African County. So
okay,
You
is Sean
frozen there.
is. Am I frozen? No, but
No,
is
you're good. It's just
okay.
corn tonight.
All
He's in
right,
and
all
out.
right. Oh, yikes,
uh,
yikes.
um,
You're frozen, corn.
I,
Oh no,
this is
we might not be coming in.
Well, if you're coming in good on my screen and I'm coming in good on yours, then I think we're good. It's
Yeah, yeah, because
yeah.
everything's clear for you. I can see myself and hear myself just fine too. And yeah, okay, Courtney, you back? Are you there still?
yeah. It's
All
fucking
right.
internet, man.
All
Uh,
right, it wouldn't be a half-ass half film panel without technical difficulties, right?
I
Upping the
forgot.
odds
I even
for it.
lost my train of thought. God damn it. No, but what I
Oh,
was saying saying that
Oh no.
was that the
Oh shit. Hey, Wizard and Jaren, how are we coming in out there?
Also, what other subliminal things are you talking about? Autist wizard, the Grandmaster Autist wizard.
Well, the one thing that made me think about is the one thing that Wizard's comment reminded me is uh, the so much of the movie is about fertility, but are there? I don't think we see. Do we see any? Yeah. Do we see any children in the movie? I mean, there was a crying baby sound that was almost incessant inside the sleeping building.
and we never saw the baby.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
can't
don't think there
recall.
was any. What's that?
I can't recall. I think that there was younger people inside the sleeping area. I don't know what you're defining
Yeah,
as
I don't
children.
remember. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know because I don't know. There was a point in the movie where the baby was crying, and it was well after people were asleep, and I was like, oh wow, that would wow, like the sound of babies crying just really just yeah, it's like I don't know, getting electrocuted to me. So so I was like, well, wait a minute, I don't remember seeing any kids on screen around. So yeah, I just wondered if you noticed that as well.
There was one kid though, because we had the disabled or the inbred child. So
Yeah, okay, okay, yeah. I didn't know how. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, because clearly that was a very young person. I mean, it was not like an adult. So yeah, but
and then
oh boy,
Wizard said specifically the hidden imagery in the woods when you see the sister's death face. Oh, there we go. We got it pulled up.
Yeah, and
yeah.
she's marching with the woman at the end of the movie. I don't know that. I didn't catch that like specifically.
Do you see it? I
Um,
don't remember that at all.
he says
Yeah.
when you see the sisters.
Yeah, I'll have to look for that when I
Oh, no,
watch
no,
it
no,
again.
no, no, no. I think what he's talking about is he's talking about the trees. Yeah, there. Okay, so I saw this a while. This is like a year or so ago when I saw it, though. I think he's talking about the face that the tree makes. So like so there's these trees that are together. I don't know if we'd be able to find it. If I'd be able to find it like right here, right now.
Oh,
But if Grandmaster Autist Wizard is talking what I think he's talking about, I think he's talking about. So it's kind of like. So you remember a couple months ago where people tried to say that Doctor Strange changed when it was like this little flash, like in the forest, like the not Doctor Strange, but the
oh,
ending
okay.
of WandaVision changed, like the post credit scene with that whole woods part. So it's kind of like it's kind of like one of those little clues. So I think that's what Grandmaster
Oh,
Autist Wizard is
all
talking
right.
about.
Okay.
He's
Yeah,
talking
I
about
didn't pick up
um,
on that, but like yeah, yeah. I mean, it must be there though. I would assume.
before we get obviously to probably my favorite part of doing these reviews, I do want to ask you guys this though. In terms of again trauma, but we're dealing with Danny's trauma. Do you guys think that there is something that what is the overall message that we were supposed to get from Danny's perspective of this movie?
Mark,
Well,
what
yeah. Well, that's a good guess because I do have a lot to say about that. But
you are
yeah,
the college
no.
educated one.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. If I'm going to get anything out of my English classes, yeah, I do think that yeah, that was the focus of the movie. That Danny, clearly was the primary antagonist of the film. If there was anyone else that could be considered an antagonist, I actually do think the village was an antagonist. I think the horrifying things that happened in the village were not necessarily intended to be read as bad things, or at least ultimately end up as bad things. I was kind of worried at the first because has either one of you seen Wicker Man, either the first one, the British one, or the Nicolas Cage one.
Yeah, I think I saw the
Okay.
Nicolas Cage because the Nicolas Cage one, that was a remake, right?
Yeah, Nicolas Cage was the it's the bees, that one. I mean, probably by reputation at least. So yeah, I was starting to get a lot of that vibes
Yeah,
from it. Also with the Cannibal Holocaust, because I was kind of thinking like, oh, is this just going to be pagans are weird? But yeah, I mean, and for a while, I think that was kind of the intention where people like me were probably being made to think where where are they going with this? And I think it did end on a better note than that. But I do think it's really focused on uh, Danny's trauma and her journey from being in a world of alienation, an industrialized world with hyper individuality and psychological isolation to this sense of community. And it's been done in such a way that seems extreme to people like in America's eyes or the so-called Western world or whatever, because I mean we see Danny sort of open up. She starts to participate. We see that
yeah.
like she goes from her her city clothes to to an apron, and then she's wearing the full gown, and then finally at the very end she's dressed
And the
in
flowers.
shower. Yeah, the flower where she looks like, I don't know, like a legless grimace made out of flowers at the end. And I'm talking about McDonald's grimace. So so yeah, I think that the entire movie was about that journey. Which I think it does make for very cerebral, intelligent horror, where we have that clash, but we have a character that develops and a show that comes to a certain point. I mean, we have a character that reaches some big change in their lives, that has changed them. I mean, and I think we're left to assume, at least I was, that Danny was not going to go outside of that village. She had found her home with those people.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until literally like we got to the part where she became the May Queen and they started showering her with the flowers and everything. And then she chose to actually have. Now again, we didn't see her say yes, but the very next scene we saw Christian being thrown into that room and then the whole bear being taken apart. So pretty much, I mean, didn't they give her the option to kill to let him live? And she basically said no, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, they did. And you have to assume she said to kill him, right? Because he died.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that was
And you can imagine why she would
that
do it too. Like it's building, the whole film's building
was
up to
my
like it.
assumption was that she said to him,
Yeah,
yeah,
it wasn't a huge disappointment to
yeah,
see
most definitely.
Christian be
So
burned
so
alive.
Felt good, yeah.
Yeah,
which was
cathartic.
crazy, which was crazy. We that last part too. I mean, you saw where because Christian you couldn't really see because granted he couldn't say anything, he couldn't move his body. So, we saw him catch on fire, but then we saw some of the other people or whatever you want to call that, where you see the fire first hit that one guy and he just starts screaming at the top of his lungs. That's when I was like, oh man, they've really hit it, man. They really hit it with this movie. Like it for some reason just still gives you that automatic human reaction where it's like, oh man, you really don't want to see this guy fucking burn because he's screaming and everything. But then you see the whole fucking thing just catch on fire and you're like, oh wow, this is some next level shit. And then the very last part you see is Danny's face as she's smiling. And she goes from frowns and crying to literally straight up fucking just smiling. Uh, what were you guys' thoughts with that last scene of?
Well, I thought it was the summation of Danny's character arc. I mean, I think everything that led up to that point, the smile was it. I mean, that's what we were given. That was and it was kind of like the closure. I mean, for such an otherwise like horrifying film. I mean, it actually gives us this very satisfying closure in the film. You know, we see Danny smiling. She's gonna be okay. You know,
She worked
because
through her trauma.
yeah,
She's good to go.
and in a lot of ways, it's psychologically accurate too. You know, because she found a way to sort of face her traumas through this sort of the tragic elements or the horrifying elements of her stay up until that point. You know, which becomes part of her transformation, where she's sort of shocked out of the worldview that she once had.
Yeah, it's definitely a commentary on the industrialized world versus how things used to be, maybe. Is Corn gone for good now, or?
Yeah, I thought he was still talking with us. So,
Yeah, no. I mean, he
yeah,
was like almost out of there.
all
We moving on to
right.
great, or can we get him in the
Yeah,
chat?
yeah. Oh, wait, I see something came. Oh, did you send him something in private?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry if there's any mistake. I know Grandmaster Autist Wizard checked out later skaters, but if, yeah, if Jaren or anyone's still out there, sorry about our technical difficulties. Because yeah, this does seem
Yeah,
to be about the time. Oh, there he is.
there we go. Yeah, dude. I don't know if you guys got my my message in private chat. My internet's fucked.
Oh yeah, yeah. No.
So we're gonna move on to yeah. So we're gonna yeah. Smith already asked about grades. So we're gonna move on to grades. So what were your grades? Uh, and Mark, I'll start with you. What was your grade Midsummer and why?
Uh, this is a really good movie. One of the main reasons why I really liked it was that I came away from it initially um, thinking that there were certain things about the film that I really had to think about. I really wasn't sure where I was going to go. I knew I didn't hate it, but there were some things about it that I wasn't sure. So, but I mean, any movie that can really make me think, you know, at any level. It doesn't even often have to be as cerebral as this, but this is certainly a cerebral movie. Um, However, there was one problem I had uh, with the movie, and it's sort of I don't know. So I would want to give it an A plus, but I give it an A. Okay, I can't give it like the 100%, and it's just it kind of seems outside of it or whatever. But I mean, I just really like I really don't like how he had to go there with killing Josh first that way. You know, because I just thought, wow, you know, the actor that played him. I mean, what wasn't any of this discussed? Because it's such a really base, crappy trope to kill off the black guy first. It's like it just there's just such a bad history behind it that I think like of all the things that this movie tied up and everything, it didn't do much in my mind to justify it. You know, in a way. I mean, I don't know. This might be another discussion because we could talk about the original Night of the Living Dead and how you know the black guy that was the hero was killed in that movie, but yet I think there's some aspects to that speak differently about that movie that might be able to redeem it a little bit. But as far as this goes, I don't know. I mean, but I'm not saying that I can't have my mind changed about it, but it gets an A.
Corn is out,
Uh-oh.
probably.
I guess so. He got my grade posted.
I
Oh
guess he's
man,
listening, but we can't hear him. So,
yeah.
for me, this film gets an A plus for sure. I mean, regardless of, and the thing with the black guy dying first, I don't even know that was probably intentional because I would imagine this group of Swedish villagers, isolated Swedish villagers, are probably racist. So they were going to kill him anyways. I couldn't see I probably wouldn't have been. We wouldn't be talking about this film if they had. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work if it was like some mixed race, some diverse population in rural Sweden. But I understand your concern with it. It's a fair point.
Well,
but for
like
me,
I said,
yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that he didn't die first. He didn't die first, right? Technically, because Simon.
He was the first of the inner circle. Now, mind you, if we could say that Simon and Connie died, I mean, they were also people of color as well. I'm not going to sit here and try to guess what ethnicity they were, but they didn't appear.
Simon technically didn't die until we don't know when he died. Really?
Yeah, later. I mean, because they came up missing. Yeah. Okay, so that was vague.
Even when they found him, his lungs were still moving, so he.
Yeah.
Could have died
either
whenever.
way, and they weren't in the inner circle. So the inner circle of people before, Christian, Mark and Josh and I don't know. There wasn't there. Yeah, Pele, but Pele, I guess But either way, of the people, but another mark that that Josh had against him, he was also the smartest guy in the group. Because hey, if there's not a black guy to kill in the horror movie, there's often a smart guy to kill. So, and he was both smart and black.
Well, it's 2-for-1 deal right there,
Yeah. He had it all going against him. But yeah, but I would but I'm not saying that is absolutely inexcusable under any circumstances whatsoever. I was just like, hey, if you could give me a better reason or there's some way I could find it redeemable, but I couldn't. But then again, like I said, maybe my mind could be changed on it. But as I'm sitting here right now at this point in my thoughts and viewing of it, I'm just like, yeah, I can't walk away giving it a perfect score because of that.
It's rough, man. Because like I was saying, like this movie A+, because there's so much to talk about as the viewers have seen here. I mean, it's an hour and 12 minutes in. There's a lot going on here, and I think because of that, it has a lot of rewatchability, which a lot of horror films don't for me, especially the slashers. Like you see it once, okay, yeah, this is gonna come. This guy's gonna get his head chopped off or whatever. But this one, I've watched it several times, and it's always got something new. It's very nuanced. There's a lot going on. Like even the banners that you were talking about with the epic on them. The tapestries, I guess is the word. And then also how Corn pointed out, there's a painting of a girl touching a bear's nose in like one of the first scenes, which I didn't notice. So yeah, A+ for me. I don't know if Corn's going to be giving his grade maybe.
Yeah, well, he just put up your A+, so.
So he can hear us. Just throw your grade up for
Yeah. So I don't know, because I don't know if it's
an A.
Early. Oh, he gives it an A.
I'm the only A+ here.
And I think he kind of gave a hint as to why he probably didn't give it an A+, but not anything specific. I just think he said when I watched this the second time, but I might just be guessing the wrong way on that. But okay, he gives an A.
If I had to guess, his problem was with the beginning of the movie, not like the first 10 minutes, probably. Mm-hmm. The sister killing the family thing just wasn't that well done compared to the rest of the film, but I can look past that. Very aesthetic film as well. They really nailed it.
Oh God, yeah, the photography and the cinematography. Oh, that's
just amazing. Every shot looks awesome.
I mean the soundtrack, just all the technical stuff. I don't know. Hey, Corn, we can see you.
Can you guys hear me?
We can see you.
Yeah.
Turn off. I'm so pissed right now. But yeah. And I was hearing you guys. I was trying to do it from my phone. I was talking to my phone, but I don't think you guys could hear me. But yeah, whoever said, I think it was Smith who said it, hit the nail right on the head. Like that, the reason why I gave this movie an A is because um, that those 45 minutes, man, that's very vital to me, bro. Like, I'm like, look, if they couldn't give us like a clear cut answer of what the reason why we needed to know all that extra information in terms of the friends amongst each other with them and the whole essay and all this. And because I mean, going off what you said, because I do go back to what you said, Mark, trying to explain of why we had why they had to explain to us what was going on between the friction between Christian and Josh, right? But to me, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me to actually digest that, especially watching this movie, twice, 2 sittings. So that's the reason why I gave it an A. But other than that, I mean, it hit the it rolled on all cylinders for this. This movie was freaking awesome. Um, Having watched this the first time in 2 years, I felt like I was watching it for a first time again. It's one of those movies where it's very rewatchable. Not as rewatchable
Yeah.
as I said. Which movie did I say was very watchable a couple weeks ago? I forgot which one that was, but I think it was Inception. I said it was, but yeah, I mean, it's not on that level, but it's definitely on a level of like, hey, it's Halloween every October. I wouldn't mind coming back and watching this movie.
This is more of a Christmas
But
horror film, honestly, or maybe like a June or a
Yeah.
Christmas horror film.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice summer horror film.
there's a big difference. Is it June or is it Christmas? But I feel you, man.
It's certainly pretty
But
and
anything else
colorful.
you guys want to say about yeah, I know. Anything else you guys want to say about Midsummer?
Yeah, did you guys see the 2003 version?
No,
Uh,
Dude,
I didn't even know there
Mids
was a 2003 version.
I just found out
Really?
about it today when I was going on IMDb to read some stuff about it. So I guess I'll check that out. It's probably, I mean, obviously we haven't heard about it, and it was only 2003,
yeah,
so it's probably not very good.
Is it an American film?
because the
Is it
Wikipedia
American?
article doesn't mention.
No, and I don't think it's really a. The only thing it has in similarity with it is that it's in Sweden and it's a group of college kids. So I think it's a
Okay.
totally different thing, but they are related. So
So it's not.
But
It's all
yeah,
right. Okay, so it's not an American done film though, right?
yeah, it's not a
I'm guessing
sequel
it's
or
going to be
remake or
what
anything like
under.
that. It's just another Midsummer. So it's got like loose affiliation.
mm,
Huh. I
yeah,
gotta check that
because
out then.
the way they described it in the Wikipedia article was that Ari Aster apparently I don't know who approached him about it, but they wanted him to do a slasher film, and he really didn't want to do a slasher film. But it's kind of funny knowing that now. I can sort of make some parallels with slasher films in ways that kind of subvert slasher tropes. But yeah, and this I think will become obvious when if you know that he wanted to kind of, he I think he was coming out of a really bad relationship or something like that, or he came out of one, and he wanted somehow for it to be about that. And I mean, clearly it is. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's a very relatable way. I
Hey.
mean, if we haven't
It,
been in that relationship, we've seen our friends have been in that relationship. You know?
and the way he was able to kind of twist it into a way of a female perspective too was actually, I mean, that's, I would say it's unheard of, but that's very rare as well. Um, in seeing that, but I mean, long story short, I mean, think about it. This dude's pretty much saying that he wanted to kill his ex girlfriend, but don't
Oh
we all feel
yeah,
that? No, I'm just
you
kidding.
know,
But anyways,
which made him
go ahead, Mark.
irredeemable too, because he just seemed to be too much of a coward to break it off with her. I mean, yeah, I mean, of course, like he wanted
Yeah,
to break it off with her. They said that Mark said, "Oh, you wanted to ditch her a year ago or for a year now," blah blah blah. And then of course he stays under the pretense that, oh well, she just broke up with or her parents, all her parents and her sister died, if I break up with her now, that's gonna really be bad. But I think he was more concerned about himself, really. I mean, because I think what we got, at least what I got, is like, actually, it probably would have been better for her if he did break up with her, even afterward. Just I'm not saying it wouldn't have been fucked up and
Facts.
it wouldn't have had repercussions, and it certainly wouldn't have healed her quite the way the village did. But yeah, but I don't know. Either way, that's wow, that's right. Because I'll admit, like, I'm not proud of this, but yeah, it's like I said, if we haven't been in this relationship, I mean, I'll admit, I'm not proud of it, but I was Mark in a lot of ways. Like, I've been friends with guys like, dude, every time we get together, all we talk about is how are you gonna break up? Just dump her, dude. Just shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We've all been in.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say all, but yeah, I just where it's like, dude, you gotta tell her, like you gotta let her know, like, it's over, and then there's times where your homeboys are still, your homeboys still with that chick, man, especially the crazy ones
Hmm.
too. Those
And
crazy
I'll
ones,
admit, a lot of times
fucking
it was just so I
bitch,
didn't
man.
have to hear about it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, facts. But yeah, this movie to me, yeah, again, I give this movie an A. I think we've all touched the A territory, with this movie, and rightfully so, because it's just one of those, it's one of those movies where you can literally just sit back, even though this movie's long as shit, you can sit back. It doesn't feel that way. Once you finish the movie, you're like, wow, that was really good. I mean, would you guys go as far as calling this movie necessarily a masterpiece in a creative sense on Ari Aster's part?
Those are big words right there.
I would.
Yeah, and the only thing I say is because I've never seen a horror movie like this before, not on this scale, at least.
I would say it's at least a
No, I would.
classic.
I mean, Ari Aster. What this is like?
Definitely,
mm,
definitely a classic. Yeah, I agree. What about you, Mark?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. Yeah. I would say absolutely. I would say that. I am very interested uh, to see going forward what Aster would have to do next because I believe this is only like his third feature film, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah,
he's pretty young
yeah,
and
like
upcoming
second or
type.
third.
I mean, or at least he's made his name big in a very, very quickly. So, and hopefully if he's, he can still stay on this train and keep it going. And I'm really looking forward to see what's next for him.
Mega facts, mega facts. But ladies and gentlemen, I wanna say thank you to Jaren, thank you to Grandmaster Aldous Wizard, and thank you to everybody else who came through um, to support the channel, to hear us talk about Midsummer. Uh, this movie was made in I about to say 1919 in 2019, directed by Ari Aster, and yeah, this movie is a this movie's a fucking classic. And all I can really say about this movie is you guys got to go watch it. I mean, we sat here, we just talked about this movie. You guys got to go see it. So pull it up on. Where did you guys watch this? By the way, I watched it on Amazon. Where'd you guys watch it?
Oh, I bought it on YouTube. Like 10.
So you guys know where to get
Where
it,
did I
man.
watch?
You guys know where to get it. But yeah, man,
Uh, yeah.
make sure you guys hit that like and that subscribe. Make sure you guys keep an eye on the YouTube channel. I've always got new videos coming up every week now. It seems like we've got another review coming up as well. We're going to be reviewing Eraserhead, and then right after that, we're going to be reviewing The Thing. So so keep on the lookout for those two reviews for the month of October. But with that all said and done, Mark, where can people find you?
All right. The reason why I am on this show is because Corin found me through my very slow and currently inactive site, the WalterPaisleyCafe.com. And the reason why that is so slow is because I am deeply immersed in the art side of my business, which is really my main business, Spidau. And you'll see that spelled below my face, SchpidauU. Corn will thankfully put links to my print on demand sites. I'm on TeePublic, Redbubble, and Society 6. Not only can you get nifty T-shirts and coffee mugs and stickers and pins and stuff like that, the usual fare of imagery put on stuff. But you can also get some interesting things like furniture and other stuff. I also do. Not only do I make drawings of like funny little characters or horror scenes or whatever, I also just make like geometric patterns and stuff like that, influenced from all the other interests I have. So yeah, if you feel like buying a really hip looking credenza, I've got that on Society 6. So all right, but yeah, and of course you can find me on the usual suspects as far as social media goes: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under now Mark Platt. Even though it's personal, you may find out you don't really like me, but or the Walter Paisley Cafe. All right, thanks, Corn. See you later, everybody.
No problem, man. Make sure you guys head the links are already in the description. Make sure you guys head over there. Head over to Spadal. Make sure you guys head over to Instagram. Follow the Instagram profile of Hap. Follow Smith. Follow Mark. Support the channel, guys. So hit that like, subscribe. We are the Half-Ass Film Panel. I am me. This is Mark. This is Smith. And ladies and gentlemen, we are OU.